This is going to be the first video I've made since the renovation to my apartment. It may look okay, but it's just a horrible job. This cheap ass GE stove, the burners go up, the burners go down. They don't maintain an even heat. Same with the oven. It becomes very difficult to bake and everything in them. I gave them information on my disability with my leg and the fact that I can't bend over. Said I couldn't have my counters lowered and all. So the top of the counter is not lowered, but everything below it is. Everything in the bathroom is lowered, so I have to bend over to do everything. It's become a nightmare of pain every day. Just because HRDC hates handicapped people. And that's what it is, in opinion. But anyhow, today, I'm going to make two different pies. A rhubarb strawberry custard pie and a coconut custard pie. Why I'm doing them together is they use the same custard base. All I have to do is put a different filling in each pie and we're good to go. So what we're going to do is start with the rhubarb. What you have to do with the rhubarb first is peel out the outer layer. So just get a little bit of a hook on with your knife and peel it back. You don't want this big stringy stuff all throughout your rhubarb. It makes it tough to eat and takes away a little bit from the goodness of the pie. Now we are using 2 smaller stalks of rhubarb for this, or you can use 1 large stalk. And we're just going to cut it up into small pieces. Make sure they're separated. There's still some of those strings on there. So we'll peel them off every chance we get, just to make a nicer pie. Now, what we're going to do for our measurement here, I'm calling it a pie measurement. We're just taking the rhubarb, throwing it into the pie shell. We are doing the same thing with the strawberries. Again, I can't tell you an exact measurement depending on, the berries, the rhubarb, the pie shell that you happen to be using. I like the Marie Callender's myself. So we just slice the strawberries up, throw them in the pie shell, and we're going to keep doing that until we have the strawberries and rhubarb even with the upper part of the crust. Now we have our level measure of strawberries and rhubarb in the pie crust. Take another bowl, dump it all in there. Make sure you get everything out because we have to treat the pie crust now. Now to this, we are added 1 cup of Splenda, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. All of these are going to get mixed together. So we're covering the strawberries with both items. When the strawberries start to let their juices go and all in the oven, you really need the cornstarch to bind all that together so you don't have a soupy pie. Yes, I do use Splenda all the time. Pretty much everything I do now is sugar-free. I started to get type 2 diabetes, had to go with the sugar-free stuff. And I'm sticking with it. I broke my tib fib, and then a couple years later I broke my femur. Just starting to recover from that a little. But I put on a lot of weight. I was up to 240. And by just changing a couple little things that really don't make a difference in my life, I've been able to shed 40 pounds, working on another 30, then I'm going to be happy. And nobody will know that this is not sugar-filled desserts. Now the first step to our custard is 4 eggs. We're going to whip those up. And once they're whipped up, we're going to use them for a second purpose. Now our pie crust, we don't want that soggy either. So we're going to brush it with this egg mixture. This will seal the pie crust so that when we bake it here in a second, our crust will not soak through. You have the egg wash on them all. You're going to take a fork and poke some holes in the bottom of the crust. This is going to let a little bit of air out that would be on the bottom so they don't puff up in the middle. They still may. Just watch them over this next 10 minutes. If they start to, take your fork, poke them again. Take it right back down. Now I always put my pies on a baking sheet when I'm doing this kind of thing, just because I hate cleaning the oven. Did I mention I'm lazy? Put them on the baking sheet, pop in the oven for 10 minutes. Computer, set timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, 30 minutes.
So your oven's at 350. Your 10 minutes will go by real quick, and we're going to make our custard now. We got our eggs here, all whipped up nicely. To that, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. A teaspoon of salt. Two-thirds a cup of half and half. Four tablespoons of flour. Now the last 2 things that go into our custard are nutmeg. We're going to do about half a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. If you're using fresh nutmeg like this, you don't need that much. If you're using one that's already ground, I'd put a teaspoon in for the 2. And just a squirt of lemon juice. Now your crusts are par baked. Oh, you got a little nice brown color on these things. Now first, the strawberry rhubarb custard pie. We take our mix and just fill the pie crust with it. We want this evenly spaced out. We don't want too much on top. We don't really want a bunch of strawberries up above the custard where they can burn too much. Try and get all that sugar and cornstarch out of there and put it on top of the pie too. I'm very tempted just to get a spoon and start eating this out of the pie shell. But that's not what we're doing today. Now our custard. Give this a quick little mix, and we're just going to fill it up to the upper part of the crust, just before the flare. So we're going to go around, trying to get this poured in even, so we don't have to let it settle too much. Get all those little nooks and crannies and holes in there. Ooh, it's looking good. Now I've made the coconut custard before, and people are telling me it's their favorite pie that I make. But once I started doing this strawberry rhubarb custard, went to the next level. Just unbelievably good. And they're all ranting about it. I love it. Now to our custard. Seeing that the coconut doesn't have the sugar in it, just the strawberries, shouldn't say sugar, should say Splenda. We're going to put a cup of Splenda into the custard mix. Mix that in. This is going to thicken a little and give the sweetness that we need. Now I'm going to break a little bit of a rule right here, because I'm going to put a tablespoon of Grand Marnier in. And well, the alcohol will turn into sugar, but it's only a tablespoon. We just want the orange flavoring in there, and that's going to give the coconut a much nicer taste. To this custard, I'm going to add a cup of shredded unsweetened coconut. Get that mixed in good. And fill the pie crust with it. Get as much goodness out of that bowl as you possibly can. Fill that pie crust right up. I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit more of the coconut flakes on top. These are going to brown off nicely, add a little more sweetness to the pie, and it's all natural. Like everything I make, people are going to be amazed that it's sugar-free. I mean, they will not believe it. Honest. Trust me. Now these are going to go in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes. With my oven, it'll probably go longer. But what you want to make sure is when you take them out, that the centers of your custard don't move. You know, you want it just to have a little bit of wiggle. You don't want any sloppiness in there. Or else when you cool it and cut it, you're still going to get a runny pie. If you need to put it in for an extra 5 minutes or more, do it. Trust yourself. Okay, let's get these in the oven. And our time is up on the pies. We'll check and see how they're doing in here. Give them a little shake. Oh, the centers are nice. And here we are. Strawberry custard, coconut custard. They look beautiful.